So we seem to have a little bit of interest expressed in a little more information on our pastures based on some comments on previous videos that we did about the cows and the sheep. So thought I'd talk a little bit about that for those that are interested. So this might be a little more geared towards people who are actually raising animals, but if you're buying meat, that might be, something that you're interested in too. Know what your animals are fed. So on our farm, we have, in a broad sense, kind of two main types of pastures. We have a native pasture, which means a pasture that has never been cultivated at any time. So it's basically the way it's always been, never been broken or ripped up in any way. And then we have tame pastures, which on our place are pastures that used to be cropland. In a lot of cases, they're cropland for 70 to 100 years, and then they were sown down to grasses and legumes and made into pastures. So right now we are on some tame pasture. This was sown down in 1994. The last time a crop was grown was 1993. Initially we sowed it to, it was basically a smooth brome and alfalfa mix that's with a few other things thrown in. That's a pretty typical grass mix that you could buy anywhere. And then over the years, we've added other things. We've added meadow brome, which is more of a bunch grass. So that's what, and it doesn't form a seed head very as often. So that's what all of this stuff is. If you look at this grass here, it's kind of hard to tell because it's all grown together, but that's basically one plant right there. And like I said, it doesn't form a seed head. It's not a sod forming grass, it's a bunch grass, so you don't get a bunch of sod. It's too thick for other things to grow. So that's the predominant grass out here. There's also some alfalfa out here, which is what that is. That's still persisted. That's a pretty common legume. I think everybody's probably heard of it. It is a bloating legume, so it will cause ruminant animals to bloat. Basically forms like a froth picture like a froth on a latte or a beer or something like that in their stomach, and that expands, creates gas. Their stomach expands. Eventually, if it gets bad enough and it isn't treated, it expands the stomach so much that it presses in the diaphragm. They can't breathe, and eventually their heart stops and they die. So we don't have a whole lot of that on our pastures. There's a little bit, but mostly what we have on our place for legumes are non-bloating legumes like this. This is Sicer milk vetch. I talked about that in another video. But you can see it's a little bit different. The leaves are a little bit different. It forms these seed pods right here. The sheep in particular like to eat those, and they poop them out all over the place, and you get more and more milk vetch. On our place, this stuff grows really, really well. We also have some bird's foot trefoil. We have a little bit of sainfoin. Both of those are also non-bloating legumes. So this pasture in particular has been grazed twice this year. Once by the sheep in the spring, and then again kind of midsummer by some cows. And then we're going to be putting the sheep back in here in another little bit. Anyways, before the snow flies, the sheep will be back in. But this is kind of what milk vetch tends to do, is it forms, I don't know if you can tell, but kind of this area, there's a large kind of mat of milk vetch, and it just kind of will spread out, and I don't know if it's kind of hard to see, but there's quite a bit of milk vetch. So all those little black dots are milk vetch pods, and they are everywhere. So we are big fans of legumes in general, non-bloating legumes in particular. They're just a cheap source of nitrogen. We've spent a lot of money on these pastures to try to get to the point where we have a lot of legumes. So there's kind of milk that's just everywhere out here. We also planted a few of these. That's some hawthorn. And we've got, that might all be hawthorn actually. We've also got a few other little species of trees that produce berries, so we're trying to kind of provide a feed source for birds and that sort of thing. It's a little maple tree. So yeah, that's kind of what the native pastures look like. It's not super easy to see, but the main point is that lots and lots of milk vetch and other legumes makes for a very productive pasture. And we will talk a little bit more about native pastures on the next video.